Thank you very much there. And welcome back, viewers, to the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. There's been very much happening in this space, looking at the issue of governance, the political space, political parties, and in fact, just some utterances that probably really have many quite concerned. This morning, we are chatting with Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus, a former presiding officer and the political leader of the IDA, as we speak about a betrayal of the people's trust. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Julian. Good morning to the people of Tobago and wherever you're listening and viewing from. I know we're on that global environment nowadays.
Certainly. As we get the conversation started this morning, I want to get, from where you sit, looking on, observing, and I'm certain paying very close attention, both from having sat in areas of responsibility within governance, as well as just quite simply as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and more so resident of Tobago. If we were to start on the premise of some grading, where would you start with that rating at the moment, just over a year in approaching 2 years of the administration?
I think the last time I was here, I gave them a 4. I think they have dropped since. I would give them a 3. And they continue to lose stock, not just in my eyes, but in the eyes of the people.
All right. Let's dive into what is one of the more recent circumstances that would have taken place. A video, or more so an audio, which is now circulating with the voices appearing to be that of the Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Education in conversation. Your immediate thoughts as this began circulating within the Tobago space and beyond?
Well, my immediate thoughts would have been, is it real? Has the authenticity of this video been verified? But we now see that it is 48 hours out, just about. And there has been no denial, no response from the administration. So we can all safely assume that Videogate is real, okay? And therefore, if it is real, we ask ourselves what part of it is disturbing or feeling of a betrayal to the people. And what is, when you look at it and you dissect it, first of all, when you're in office, in terms of, they spoke about the 13 areas, districts that they already have placed people. And that is okay because a representative would need the support to get the information to the public in terms of what is happening in their areas. So that's not an issue if you have persons who are operating your page to share with the people of Tobago, because when you are a representative in that area, you're not a representative for those who you think voted for you, but you're representing the whole of your constituency. And therefore, if you want to get the information out credibly of what is happening, then there's no problem with you having someone in your office, in your constituency office, to assist you with getting that information out on your social media. Now, where it becomes the issue is the intent to create fake profiles for propaganda and give somebody a work for 8 to 4 just in the THA just to do that. That is where the challenge comes, because you're now using, or your intent on utilizing public funds for political engineering. Okay? And I know people are going to say, but the others have done it too. But didn't we campaign for things to be done differently, for things to be appearing different? So using the adage that, well, it was done before is not good enough at this stage. And it does border on the Integrity in Public Life, Act, and it will be interesting to see whether they pick that up in terms of investigating what is happening there. So I think that is where the people feel as if their trust has been betrayed, because we've seen other videos where from the campaign trail, the leader stood up and gave his word to being in integrity in public office, working differently on behalf of the people. And to now hear these utterances clearly associated with him at the same time, it really is a sad day for us.
Tell us, and you made a valid point there. In response to it, you're seeing some. We heard extensively on the Minority Report, from hearing from the minority leader and a number of officials indicating from the former administration that it's something that they're speaking downright against. They're very concerned about it and so on. And then you made a valid point that there are also those who are of the view ultimately that this is not exactly unusual. Do you believe the public may be accepting in some way, form, or fashion by making the comparison with former entities, or do you feel that this administration will be held very strongly based on the fact that you mentioned that they made a promise and gave commitments to do everything differently?
Well, you have to ask yourself, why did the people vote you in? They didn't vote you in because they liked you. They voted you in because they were speaking out against of what was occurring in the past. And therefore, when you are coming back with the same approaches and the same sort of decision-making processes, people feel betrayed because they feel they got, what do they say? Cat and bag, 619, and they got an exchange. They did not get really what they thought they were voting against. And I think that is where we're having people actually voicing that they feel betrayed, they feel very frustrated and disappointed. Now, we also need to draw reference to the fact that if you're talking about THA jobs and just finding a place, putting people in an 8 to 4 THA job to do fake profiling, number one, what fake profiles are to do? Spread propaganda. It means that you are not confident enough in your performance as an administration why you have to spread propaganda and create a fake profile to do it. Secondly, those jobs that you're giving to those persons, are those the vacancies from the young people that you threw out of their jobs when you came into office? Young people who have their degrees, who have been qualified, whose parents worked long and hard hours to send them to school and to qualify, and who had jobs there performing well. And now all of a sudden they're back home having to be fed again by their parents, and now you're talking about bringing in persons just to take up those positions. I think that is totally unacceptable where it is. But it also speaks to something that is very evident. The camp is crumbling, because clearly it was someone within that meeting who would have recorded and leaked the information.
Very interesting, because that would have been another aspect, that I would have wanted to raise. But just before we head on over there, I couldn't help but recalling, as early as when this information came out, and you saw the views being expressed by the public, it was our former Prime Minister, Basdio Pandey, that, and many were in uproar when he made the statement of politics having a morality of its own. Is that something you support, you don't accept, or you're still in between with regards to that perspective by former Prime Minister Basdio Pandey of politics having a morality of its own?
If we continue going down that road, we're not going anywhere. It's time for a new type of politics. I mean, across the world, they're calling for a new type of politics, because the world is, really going into shambles with that approach in politics. And so we have to have more transparency, more accountability, more people who are willing to be their word. You know, it's not just about talking the rhetoric on the political platform and then do what you want when you come into office. It's how can the people believe what you said on that platform is what they can depend on and what they will see when you are in office. And so we have to start shaping and grooming a new type of politician such that the people feel that they can trust. And I want to urge the people that a new type of politician is not just over there, it's also with all of us, because we have to be prepared to have stronger voices in the mix as the average person on the street. And like we like to say in the IDA, let us return the power to the people. And we are championing actually having the people feel as if they can have a voice without the risk of being victimized, because that is one of the other issues we have to deal with in the Tobago space and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, where if you speak out, persons are afraid that by tomorrow they will lose their jobs. And that's, again, that speaks to the number of people who are actually employed by the Tobago House of Assembly and growing, and whether that is actually good for the people or whether they should be paying all of those entrepreneurs who have had approved grants to start their businesses and go forward for over 9 months, being told that they have no monies to give them. They have approved them, but the money not there to give them. So we have to start, looking at this in a different way. We have to start looking at it in a different way. We have to start looking at how do we stimulate the economy. And I know I'm taking this in a different direction, but there are so many things bigger than this issue. But perhaps, I think this is one of the straws that they say will break the camel's back, because we've been getting a number of calls and people are saying we can't go back. We can't go forward with this, and therefore we consider you to be the choice.
Tell us, the concern that is constantly raised is we hear politicians making commitments prior to taking up office, and then people complain about the fact that when you get there, things are ultimately going to be the same. What would you say is fundamentally different in the context of the IDA, the party that you lead, so as to ensure that the values that you put forward at this point, ultimately, should the people vest that confidence within you and the IDA down the road, that they won't end up in the same situation?
Well, the same situation is not just about the political party, yes, and I get to what we will be doing differently, but the situation is also about the framework to hold parties accountable. And Julien, you've been in the legislature. Is it enough that you have 13 people sitting on one side and 2 people on another side? What kind of democracy can we have? Whatever the administration brings will always have the majority vote because they have the majority people in the House. We have been to the United Kingdom,
Correct.
The Westminster system. We keep saying we're following the Westminster system in Trinidad and Tobago, but we are not. Because in the Westminster system, you have over 600 parliamentarians and 30 persons running the executive. So it means that there will always be oversight. There will always be accountability inside of there. And you can't do as you please because those 600 people will have a say over the 30 people. And we have to start looking at a new democratic model where we can have that level of good governance such that it is not just dependent on an administration going in to be their word, but there is a framework around them that helps to keep them being their word. And so the idea is championing the true greater autonomy bill according to having greater accountability. We are looking at our candidates, and first and foremost has to be that you can prove to us that you are accessible and approachable to the people. If I am calling you from now and you can't answer your phone, how are you going to answer the people of Tobago when you get there? Okay, so that is at the top of our list in choosing our candidates. We intend to work with them from early and shape them, because what we also saw is the inexperience of this administration. And battle ready does not mean you are leadership ready. And we are seeing that. Okay, and so that is what we are not going to be making wild promises to people. Right now, we are having some of our promises reviewed to see how it is fitting in to the THA model. And also, our party is built on the model that we are talking about with the THA, where a political leader or chairman does not have unfettered decision-making powers. The general body of the party makes those decisions, and it will be implemented by the small executive. It is also important that we listen to the people. You know, I've always said, whoever is not listening to the people and not willing to give them a hearing, I'm not working there, right? And so we are listening to the people. When you come to a meeting, it's not just going to be the administration talking, but we want to hear from the people. And I think the people feel as if they don't have a voice anymore. Participatory democracy is not just a word in a dictionary. It is something that we must practice. This is 2023. You cannot assume that people don't know what they want for themselves in their communities. And so we need to see more consultations coming out of this administration. We will have more consultations in terms of what you're going to do, what you're putting forward the plans to do. We're seeing too many cases where we happen to know about something just because there was a bacchanal associated with it. You know, the recent issue down at Cove, not Cove, the Chauvin Road.
Chauvin.
I mean, the community consulted and told that this road is passing through there. And we have to look at it even closer. Is it really 65 million being spent, or there's more associated with that? Because when you look at the ownership map, this road passes through a number of properties. Was permission given for those properties?
That's in the Friendship area then?
Yes. What did those negotiations look like? Is land acquisition happening? And therefore, if you're talking about land acquisition, have you spoken with central government over it, or have you yet made empty promises to those people that you're going to pay them, but you've not negotiated with central government in terms of that whole acquisition process? So there's a lot that we are seeing day after day that is a continued cause for concern, you know, with the administration. And I think people are at the point where, you know, they're going to make a decision.
As we prepare to close this morning's interview, your closing comments with the reality before us that this administration is less than 2 years in. The term of office is 4 years, and as is customary, unless something dictates, it's highly unlikely that they will call an election before time. Your hope, at least focus area as we wrap this morning's interview.
The administration needs to start focusing on the needs of the people of Tobago and not their personal needs. You know, spend less time answering stuff on Facebook, and you'll have more time to put towards the work on your desks. And we need to have more people, the communities involved in having a say in what the decisions are of this administration going forward, and whether they consider what they're putting forward as priorities versus many other areas that are left undone. The economy needs to be stimulated. All of those persons who have been approved for grant funding to start their businesses and expand their businesses, you need to find the money and disburse it now. Okay? The Tobago economy is a very fragile space because of our population size. And therefore, the administration has to understand that and do everything in their power to stimulate the economy. The economy of Tobago is what the private sector is what will begin to get us back on track with our development. And if they can't understand that, they're not going anywhere. And stop the late payments. We're getting a lot more late payments to staff, to students who are traveling abroad, to contractors. You have to start considering that this is just an expanded household that you're running. Yes? And if you have monies coming in and it's less than what you think you have, then you have to proportion it in a different way. You have to create your priorities such that you can put food on the table, you can have shelter over your head, you can have your utilities bills paid, but some of the luxury items you may not be able to afford at this time. So they need to really focus and start seeing how they're going to get this right.
All right. Thank you very much, folks. We got to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Denise Tsoiafatt-Angus, for joining us here on set to give us her perspective in relation to the current happenings within our Tobago governance and the general operations of Tobago from the standpoint of the Tobago House of Assembly. We thank you, viewers, those of you connecting with us via TV, those listening in on the radio, and also to each and every one of you connecting with us online. We want to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.